Hi, I'm Chris Geizot, and on February 7th, 2015, we lost a friend and a fellow collector that we got a chance to interview for Another Man's Treasure, a collector's movie. His name was Gary Goggleshead, or Gyre-Viper, as he was known to the G.I. Joe community. As editor and director, it's really hard to figure out what ends up getting left on the cutting room floor. So we had an hour and 20 minutes to interview Gary Goggles, and we only got to show about 10 minutes of that. The portions of the interview we want to share with you are threefold. One, we want to show you the reasons why he got into the hobby. The other one is how the friendships he got a chance to make at the Joe Cons. And the third thing is his passion for collecting. Through this, we want to honor the legacy of Gary through his passion, not only as a hobbyist, but as a friend, a father, and a husband.
Anyways, Joe Declassified is this not-for-profit organization that wants to put some transparency on the history of G.I. Joe, on the hobby of G.I. Joe, whether it's rare stuff, international stuff, paperwork, folders, books, stories about the hobby, prototypes, you name it. It's something that Joe Declassified tries to embrace, without bias. So even if there's a prototype of something that no one likes, we try to be responsible about it and present it because someone might. So Joe Declassified, at the time they were setting up this booth at G.I. Joe at JoeCon, like the main G.I. Joe convention, and they'd done it a couple years, and then they would put out a magazine about a certain aspect of G.I. Joe's history or about foreign releases, rare items, stuff like that. And the idea was to sort of give the hobby back to collectors because there was just so much. There was just a lot of chaos. And so Joe Declassified was like, well, this is something that they could do to give back to the hobby because of how unique the things that they deal with are sort of everything that's contained within is so unique that it can tell a story, it can tell the story, it can make you appreciate somewhere, it can elevate the conversation that's in the hobby. And I got introduced to these guys, and a year later, before the next JoeCon, I got called and said, hey, do you want to help run the Joe Declassified booth? And I was like, oh my gosh, yes. Like, I would love that.
Wow.
And so I decided to, I had the ability and was the most willing, I guess, to take it a little further. So I started taking the Joe Declassified booth to other conventions, not just JoeCon. So I went to CanadaCon, CoilCon, which we talked about earlier, the third year of CoilCon. Well, the second year I set up sort of as myself in sort of the same way that Joe Declassified did, but I wasn't affiliated with them at the time. And same with the first Assembly Required in Iowa, which is another great G.I. Joe show. I kind of just set my stuff up so people could see it, but I wasn't affiliated with Joe Declassified. But this is why they kind of reached out to me. It was like, okay, obviously we're on the same page and we like to do the same stuff for people. So I've toured the Joe Declassified booth, St. Louis, Canada, Kane County, and Chicago. So to answer your question, Joe Declassified, I've sort of surrendered myself to it. It's not about me, despite how much infamy or micro fame I get from, because I'm the most public, and the goggles help because everyone's like, oh, it's that guy.
It's the guy with the goggles.
Just because of how many people know me, it seems like it's sort of like a my thing, but it's not. Like, I've surrendered myself completely. Everything I do for Joe Declassified. If Sam says jump, boy, do I jump. Like, I believe in what they do. I should say I believe in what we do. Yeah. And so for us, it's you go to a convention, and you're there to buy stuff or to get the exclusives or to hang out with your friends. We try to give people something else. So we set up this booth, and everyone brings parts of their collection, whether it's prototypes or rare foreign stuff or molds or paperwork or just odd licensed item you don't get to see in person all the time, just so people can sort of experience that. We don't allow photos or video because we want it to be exclusive to your experience. It's not like there are people that donate stuff to us that don't want photographs on the internet of their stuff, but for the most part, it's supposed to be for you. You came out to the convention. So a lot of people are like, well, that's not fair. I wasn't there. So I've tried to go to as many places as I can afford that will take me or, a group of us and do this. And people will actually send me pieces from their collection. They'll send me $30,000 worth of artwork to bring for a day and trust me with it because they know that I'm going to, take care of it, whatever, and then I got to go mail it back. But, so yeah, to answer your question, for me, it's to, like I said earlier, this kind of stuff can help elevate the conversation. It can make. I've seen people walk out of a Joe Declassified booth, whether I'm there or someone else is there, and just be like, wow, okay, like I kind of care again. Like there's people who have literally just been on the verge of just like, I'm done, and then they see something and it kind of brings them out of it, or like they see something that surprises them, or see something that makes them care about what they're doing more. I mean, there's people that have just that have actually, you know, helped volunteer with Declassified because of Declassified. They've just been like, I want to be a part of this because this made me feel better or different about my hobby and about toys, whatever.
Okay. Is there any other like stories that really stand out to you about prototypes and like your journey through that? Is there anything that stands out?
Yeah, the difference between normal collecting and the sort of elevated prototype collecting is that most people who collect prototypes have had some interaction with the people who made the toys or who even made the prototype. And what's interesting about that is a lot of times they're not aware that people still care about the brands they worked on, or they're not aware that anyone cared about. I talk to Hasbro designers all the time who are like, really, people cared that I worked on something? For me, it was just a job, or I never thought anyone would care. So before my very first JoeCon, which I wasn't even going to go to because I was like, am I going to go to a convention? I wouldn't even know what to do. I don't know anybody. A friend of mine convinced me to go. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go to JoeCon. At that same time, I had been talking to a former Hasbro sculptor named Bill Merkline, who's like family man. And I was like, hey, I'm going to be coming down to Rhode Island, and he's in Connecticut, which is only a couple hours away. Could we stop by your house? And he's like, yeah, sure. So I asked my friend, hey, do you want to go to a former Hasbro designer? He was like, yes, sure. And I mean, this was my first JoeCon, and it was the same year they were doing the Hasbro tour, so it was this great bookend of going to a former Hasbro designer's house, going to my first JoeCon, going on the Hasbro tour. It was an amazing weekend. And so we go to Bill's house, and he brings out all these art copies that Hasbro would send him for reference, and just spreads them out on his table. And it was mind-blowing to me. I'd never seen this stuff before. And it was sort of my my gateway into vintage G.I. Joe pre-production. And he made a spaghetti, and we talked for like 12 hours about just about anything. And so I get to JoeCon with all these images, because I didn't take all the artwork. I mean, he still has a lot of it, but some of the images we had, and we're showing them around to like the Declassified guys and other prototype collectors. Is how I kind of got to know them on a different level. Because at the time, they just knew me from the internet. They didn't know me from anywhere. And that experience, that sharing that with them and sharing that information with them, and then coming home and sharing it with the hobby is really what solidified a lot of my friendships and relationships in this hobby, which I wouldn't trade for anything. I mean, these are like my best friends now, and all that came just from this sort of search for knowledge for G.I. Joe history, and it led to so many interactions with other people that really just changed my life. Like, I never thought that collecting toys would ever change my life, but when you meet the people who are who made the toys and the people who collect the toys on sort of a different level, other than like, oh, you like this, I like this. When it gets a little deeper, a little more personal, like I said, Bill's like family to me now. Like, he's one of my favorite people on the planet, and it's someone that I never would have met if I hadn't asked myself the question, where did all this come from? So,
what is with the custom Gary goggles figure?
So Todd, who owns this store, said, I need a picture of you from head to toe, and I need a bio. And I thought it was for the CoilCon website because I was a guest that year. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. So I took a picture of myself head to toe, and I wrote a file card. But what I did was I took all the mean things that people say about me.
Okay.
And then I took the way that, without the finesse of Larry Hama, what it is, took the way that the Viper cards are written, and I put the two together. So instead of having all my Viper qualities be like why I was a good Viper, I took all the things that people call me, like smug, elitist, arrogant, and all that, and I put it into there to sort of own up to it, because that's, what else are you going to do with it? I mean, you just got to laugh it off. So I give him this information, thinking full well it's for promoting CoilCon. And next thing I know, there's an action figure of me with a file card and my photo, and it's being raffled off to pay for the porta potty at CoilCon. Was it 3? CoilCon 3. So it went for like $300 on eBay. And he made, how did you make? 7, 10, 5, 12? And so then they raffled the rest off at CoilCon.
That's awesome.
And
how do you get one made of yourself?
I don't know. He I mean, we know a lot. I mean, obviously there's a lot of customizers in our hobby who do this kind of stuff. And this isn't the first one. This is the first one that one of my friends did without telling me. Other people have. I once got a package in the mail unmarked, just addressed to me. It was a custom someone did of me.
Wow.
Someone's done a cast of my head to sell to people. Like that's sort of the micro fame that comes with doing this. Like, how many followers do you have? Well, there's a reason that people hate me, because they just think the worst of me when my friends do things like this. So it's funny because when people first saw us, they're like, oh, why does he get an action figure made of him? I'm like, I didn't do it. And then he's got a cardboard cutout of me in this outfit that he did life size.
Okay.
And of our friend Gary Godso, who's another very popular G.I. Joe collector. And I didn't ask for it. I didn't ask for other people. Like, I have like 3 or 4 customs people have made of me.
That's awesome.
People have made. One guy made a custom of me, and he made sure to message me and say, I made this of you, but I'm keeping it for my collection. I was like, okay, that's fine. All right, that's fine. Whatever. It's a voodoo doll. I don't care. Now Todd wants to raffle off that cardboard cutout. I assume so that my real fans can throw darts at it or burn it. I'm sure it'll be floating through a bonfire at some point. But yeah, so this was Todd's, I guess, trolling love letter to me. And I love it. I appreciate it for what it is. Yeah. But it did make things more difficult. Because when you're as public as I am, a lot of people are going to assume the worst. Or they're going to misunderstand. The internet is full of people misunderstanding other people. And even some of my best friends now, they used to hate me because they didn't understand. Not hate me, but they didn't like me. They didn't understand where I was coming from. They didn't understand why I was doing this so quickly when, like, a lot of them had just, taken a long time. I was like, I don't know. I'm just good at finding the stuff. That's just what I do. Right. And now they all trust me to do it. Now they're all like, no, you do it. Like, you go ahead and find it, and just, because they know I'm then going to let them have it. And I'm not going to, like you asked, like, how many do you have? No, I'm just going to let them take it. So yeah, that's how that came about. But it's not the first. It's just the first carded one.
I see. One of the last questions we got a chance to ask Gary was, what will happen to your stuff when the inevitable happens? And at the time, honestly, we didn't think it would be relevant to the piece, so we didn't end up using it. But now it seems invaluable, and it's something we want to share with you as Gary's legacy still continues to contribute to the hobby. He had a very interesting response. And as I leave you with his response, I want to wish my friend a fond farewell. You will be missed. We will always cherish you in our memories, and we'll strive to be as selfless as you were to those who were closest to you.
I've touched on it a couple times. Like, I would want this stuff to go to the right people. There's certain stuff like this. I know one of my friends just has a ton of 2-ups, and he would of course want any 2-up. But at the end of the day, if he was like, I don't really want to pay for it, or I can't afford it, I'd just throw it on eBay. It doesn't matter. Something like this, I would want to go to someone that I know would bring it places and let people see it. Okay. Would not let it get forgotten. It would be like the last thing they would sell. Mm-hmm. Something like this, I'd like to go to someone that had a Star Brigade focus. It's one of those things where I like. What I've kind of been repeating is that I feel responsible for this stuff, so I would want to be responsible with it.
Makes sense.
So, if I got cancer tomorrow, I'd be like, oh, well, I'm going to die, so, burn it with me or something. No, I'd want it to go to the right people. And if I couldn't, I honestly, again, I could just walk away from it and just be like, oh, you can have this. So, okay. Now, I'm not going to lie, there's probably part of me that just for like a social experiment might want to like destroy one on camera or paint it silly, but chances are I wouldn't do that. I guess it depends how far along the cancer was.
Okay, well, I think that's all the questions we have. But Gary, it's been great talking to you.
Thank you.
And we'll keep in touch.
Yeah, if you have any more questions, you can ask Todd.
Will do.